Grand Rising. Wonderful day. Hope everybody woke up in great spirits, great vibes, feeling great. If you hear any noise, it's probably my youngin' back there cutting up. And that is the best place for him to be right now. I feel good, man. I feel great today. Man, we're going to talk about some things today. We're going to talk about troglodyte niggas. I know y'all like, you already talked about that. This is troglodyte niggas 2. So we'll say troglodyte niggas 2 revisited. Can we say it like that? Well, I want people to know, listen, I don't do these videos, man, to make anybody angry. I don't make the videos to make anybody mad. My videos are strictly for learning and for the uplifting of my people. That's what it's about. And we just learning, man. But with that being said, somebody said, and this is why we revisiting this, okay? Somebody said, I said, which I did. If you go watch Troglodyte Niggas, that you never heard it like this. It's on my page. Watch Troglodyte Niggas, you never heard it like this. I did say that there was 3 men that came out of the Paleolithic period. The Paleolithic period is the Stone Age. Well, one man was called a Heidelberg and one man was called the Neanderthal. And the last man, who they acknowledged him as being a Caucasian or Caucasoid, all 3 of these came out of the Paleolithic period. They all was cave dwellers. And I said, because this is what they wanted me to respond to, so I am. And I said that the Heidelberg and the Neanderthal, they was Caucasoids too, but they did not mention that. And they want to know where's my proof. And if you watch that video, I said where they found them at. They found them on European places, European continents, lands. I mean, what do you want? How much more specific can I get? But I'm going to get much more specific just for you, okay? So, this is what we're going to do. Third eye open. Make sure your third eye is open. I hope everybody got their third eye open. We came here to put in work. And the work is what we're going to put in. Like I said, it's revisited, so I got to give you a quick rundown, okay? We dealt with the word troglodyte. And the word troglodyte led us to another word called troglodyte nigga. The troglodyte was a cave dweller. Somebody that lived in caves, that dwelt in holes, lived in a very primitive lifestyle. Well, you put nigga on the end of the word troglodyte and you get a chimpanzee. Okay? Once you study all of this, it brings you to what you call an anthropoid. Then the anthropoid comes to an anthropoid ape. They are cave dwellers. One was a gorilla. It says that they was chimpanzees, they was gorillas, they was orangutans, they was apes. These cave dwellers. And this anthropoid ape had the features of a man. Okay, so we got 3 men out of the period where this came from, which was called the Paleolithic. Paleolithic was what we call the Stone Age. And there was 3 men that came out of there. And you know, if you don't watch, that one man was called the Heidelberg, one man was called the Neanderthal, and the other was called the Cro-Magnon. And this is where we're going to get into it at. Where they were saying, prove my assumption, what I was saying about that those 2, that the Neanderthal and that the Neanderthal and the Heidelberg were Caucasoid, but they didn't say that. So this is what I want to do. If you're still there, this is what I want to do. I'm pretty much just going to be answering questions of, stuff that they felt like I didn't. And this is crazy because I can tell by the way that the email, how you question it and said, I know you're a white person, and it's okay. We ain't racist over here. I just know you're white. And I'm gonna give you something to think about. All right, so look, with those three men, the Heidelberg, the Neanderthal, and the Cro-Magnon, what was the difference between those three men? It was only one difference between them, because they all were anthropoid apes, troglodyte niggas, cave dwellers, lived in primitive lifestyles. They all did that. They all was in the cave. They was cavemen. Except they didn't say the Heidelberg and the Neanderthal was Caucasoid. They only said that about the Cro-Magnon man. Now, they say, why would they only say it about the Cro-Magnon man? Third eye open. That's why I want you to pay attention right now. They all were the same. They was cave dwellers, anthropoid apes, troglodyte niggas, whatever you want to say. Cave dwellers. What was the difference out of all of them? The difference was the Cro-Magnon walked upright, which brings me to where we're going to go right now. So by the Cro-Magnon walking upright, that's why they let you know he was a Caucasoid. Because if they would have told you that the Neanderthal and them was bent over, and they was Caucasoids, then that would have been where they've been evolved from. And to prove what I'm saying is right, listen, don't get angry. Third eye open. Just facts. I want to take you to Google. And on Google, we got the word. I looked up the word Caucasian, and I'll put it on the screen for you. Caucasian, listen, is a term primarily used to describe people of European, Middle Eastern, or North African origin. It's often used as a synonym for white. However, the term has a complex and controversial history stemming from the 18th century. So what would be so complex about the name Caucasian? I'm trying to figure it out. What would be so complex about the name Caucasian? It was problematic. The name Caucasian. It was problematic to anybody who would hear the name because the problem came around their origin. How did they begin? And this is why when I did my video, Troglodyte niggas, never heard it like this. I said they didn't name the Heidelberg or they didn't name the Neanderthal because that would have been problematic. So when they got to the Cro-Magnon man, they made sure they let you know he walked upright and he was of a Caucasoid type of man. Yeah, they gonna let you know because he was walking upright. The other ones was hunched over. Which this is all the same people. They all was from the Paleolithic period. They all was cave dwellers. They all was troglodyte. They all was troglodyte niggas. They all was anthropoid apes. These are facts. Who's angry? That's how I know. As I know you're probably white, and it's okay. But let me take you there even deeper to make something clear to you. They left out the Heidelberg and the Neanderthal, like I said, to prove it, because the Cro-Magnon walked upright, and that's why they told you he was of a Caucasoid type of man. Well, this is straight off of Google. I don't like to go on the internet, but man, when I had no other choice, I try to glean what I can from it. Listen, This is a phrase called knuckle dragging ape. Knuckle dragging ape means they was bent over, hunched over. The Heidelberg was hunched over like that. The Neanderthal was hunched over like that. How you know? Well, in the definitions, they made sure they let you know that the Cro-Magnon was upright. He wasn't hunched over. And they told you he was the Caucasoid. Well, they all was Caucasoids. This is their evolution. How they evolved. How was, what was the man's name? The man that came up talking about we came from tadpoles to frogs and then we turned to something. Y'all know Darwin with that BS. Anyway, that was their evolution. How they came from. Listen, the phrase knuckle dragging ape can refer to two distinct concepts. A literal depiction of apes. Listen, a literal depiction of apes, locomotion, and a derogatory slang term. Well, we ain't talking about the derogatory slang term. We talking about where did it come from. We talking about the literal depiction of apes, locomotion. Watch this. Apes like gorillas and chimpanzees, remember, the anthropoid ape or the troglodyte nigga was a chimpanzee, a orangutan, a gorilla. This is all what it's saying. Apes like gorillas, chimpanzees use a form of locomotion called knuckle walking when they was hunched over, where they support their weight on their knuckles of their hands while walking on all fours. See, hunched over like beasts. That was the Heidelberg and the Neanderthal. Watch this. Hands while walking on all fours. However, the term is also used as a derogatory insult. We're not interested in that. We're going on past that. Often implying someone is unintelligent or primitive. Well, we can pull primitive out of there because that's from the Paleolithic period. That's from Troglodyte. In Troglodyte nigga, they lived in the most primitive stages you could think of. It's making bone tools and living in caves, likening them to a perceived less evolved ape. Anyway, let me see what else I can get. Knuckle walking is a form of a locomotion. What it is, knuckle walking is a type of quadrupedal. They're walking on all fours like animals. That's what it is. That's what they call it, knuckle dragging. All right, this allows them to use their long arms for climbing and swinging while also being able to move efficiently on the ground. Examples, gorillas and chimpanzees are the most well-known examples of knuckle walking primates. So, if you don't understand what I'm saying, all I got to do is take you back to the definition of troglodyte. Listen, a troglodyte is one who creeps in holes. Cave dweller. Troggle, a hole, a cave, to gnaw, to rub, to grind, to creep in, enter. Any other prehistoric people, listen, any other prehistoric people who lived in caves. The prehistoric people that lived in caves were the Neanderthal, was the Heidelberg, and the Cro-Magnon man. Listen. Who lived in caves. A caveman, a person that chooses to live alone in seclusion, recluse. Anyone who lives in a primitive, low, degenerate fashion. An anthropoid ape. Wow. I think it's self-explanatory. But, see what else I can find. The phrase knuckle dragging ape came to refer to, hold on. The term knuckle dragging is used as a derogatory term for a person perceived as lacking intelligence, sophistication, or culture. It implies that a person behaves in a primitive, uncouth, or even aggressive manner. The term originates from the image of a large primate like gorilla. These are troglodytes and troglodyte niggas. Cavemen, cave dwellers. Like gorillas, walking on all fours with their knuckles dragging along the ground. The image is then used as an allusion to early humans. Listen, early humans. What early humans are they talking about that would be dealing with these apes? The Heidelberg, the Neanderthal, and the Cro-Magnon. The three men that came out of what they call the Paleolithic period. And they was Caucasians. But let me get right to it. The term originates from the image of a large primate like gorilla walking on all fours with their knuckles dragging along the ground. This image is then used as an allusion to early humans or less evolved primates who may have walked with their knuckles close to the ground, therefore by referring to someone as a knuckle dragger. It implies that they resemble these less evolved primates, lacking the refined characteristics of modern humans. Now, I think I just proved that these other two, the Heidelberg and the Neanderthal, they were Caucasians too, but they was hunched over. They was all the same men, cave dwellers, troglodyte nigga, anthropoid apes, however you want to say it. They was Caucasoid, but they didn't write that the Neanderthal was a Caucasoid, and they didn't write that the Heidelberg was a Caucasoid because they was hunched over on all fours. You just read that. Now, when you got to the Cro-Magnon, man, you felt a little good about yourself. Because the Cro-Magnon, like we said, we found out they went into another culture. They got with a culture called the Aurignacian. And that was like a higher Paleolithic culture. They were just a little bit smarter than the Heidelberg and the Neanderthal. That's it. And the Cro-Magnon. And they got with them and they start walking upright. So they let you know that they was a Caucasian, a Caucasoid. They didn't want you to know the origin or where they came from. That's why they said Caucasian is problematic. That's why the term Caucasian is problematic. They didn't want nobody to know it. And I think I said something else. Let's get to everything. In other videos, in that last video, Troglodyte, you never heard Troglodyte nigga, you never heard it like this. I said we taught you how to bathe. We taught you how to I said that that the Europeans came and they learned at the feet of our ancestors. And I put it on the screen for you. Listen. It says, yes, there is significant evidence. Listening? Yes, there is significant evidence suggesting that ancient Egyptians taught the Greeks. Greeks is white people. So when you go and watch the Troglodyte nigga and you hear me talking about one learned to speak and got them all together, I said, who? I said Alexander the Great. Y'all slow, man. But anyway, listen. Egyptians taught the Greeks, particularly in areas like philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy. Listen, Greek intellectuals, including prominent figures like Thales and Pythagoras, traveled to Egypt to study and learn from the Egyptians. Greek admiration for Egyptian wisdom. The Greeks held the ancient Egyptians in high regard, viewing them as a source of wisdom and knowledge. Greek philosophers and scholars in Egypt. Many Greek philosophers and scholars spent time in Egypt, studying at temples and with Egyptian priests and scholars. Wow. Now, I said we taught you how to wash yourself. Here we go again. Let's dig in a little deeper. I'll put it on the screen for you to see it. Some sources suggest that the Moors was black people. Okay? Moors was black. For those who don't know that, the Moors was black. Our people. This is why the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali came up with the Moorish Science Temple. He knew our people was black. He knew the Moors was black. Here we go. Listen to this. Some sources suggest that the Moors, during their presence in Spain, the 8th to the 15th century, had a significant influence on the European hygiene practices, including bathing. Here we go. However, the history of hygiene and cleanliness is complex and spans various cultures and time periods. It's not accurate to credit one single group with teaching another group how to wash. Here's a more nuanced look. Man, stop with the bullshit. Then we taught you how to, the Moors taught the Caucasians how to wash their ass. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. They taught you how to Oh man, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm doing a video on this mess, man. However, the history of hygiene is cleanliness. Let's jump down. It says ancient civilizations. Many ancient civilizations, including the Babylonians, they always try to put the Babylonians before the Egyptians. Y'all need to stop doing that. Including the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and the Romans, practiced various forms of personal hygiene. Listen, everything came up out of Egypt, ancient Kemet. Y'all need to stop that. We was the one doing all of that, cleansing, washing. Man, come on, man. Cleanliness next to godliness. Who you think they got that from? You see them anointing themselves before they go in the temple. Man, these people is funny. But anyway, they're always trying to downplay the Egyptians. Including the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and the Romans, practiced various forms of personal hygiene, including bathing and using soap-like substances. And then they're gonna throw the Romans in there behind the Egyptians. Listen, man, the Greeks and the Romans end up becoming the same people. So whatever the Greeks learned, they gave it to the Romans. And the Greeks learned from who? The Egyptians. See? So I don't know what they trying to play like Rome was cleaning, and Rome and them was nasty too. They always, all of them was nasty. When I say nasty, like filthy. Oh man, they was learning. Anyway, let's keep reading. Including bathing. Listen, it says, many ancient civilizations, including the Babylonians, Egyptians, and Romans, practiced various forms of personal hygiene, including bathing and using soap-like substances. Listen, the Moors influenced. During the Moorish rule in Spain, they had advanced infrastructures and practices related to cleanliness. Come on, man. Including public baths and running water. At a time when much of Europe had seen a decline in such practices after the fall of the Roman Empire, this undoubtedly exposed Europeans to different hygiene standards. See, they ain't know how to clean. Man, listen. We drop down, it says that the Renaissance and beyond. The Renaissance saw a renewed interest in hygiene, partly influenced by the rediscovery of Roman practices and a growing understanding of health and cleanliness. That's why the stuff was breaking out over there, like the plague and the Black Plague. Man, it was so much, niggas funky. When washing that ass, when washing the hands, just nasty. And it's cool. You just gotta clean up. All right, 19th century revolution, the greatest shift in European hygiene came in the 19th century, driven by the understanding of germ theory and the rise of public health initiatives. This led to a widespread adoption of practices like regular bathing and hand washing. They had to make it regular because they weren't used to washing their ass. They didn't know that. They had to make it regularly, washing their hands. Do that even sound right? Man, we got to regularly wash our hands, wash our ass. You should do that all the time. This wasn't in their culture, and it's funny. I'm laughing about it, but you know what I mean. Listen. In conclusion, while the Moors, who are black, may have played a part in influencing hygiene practices in some parts of Europe, particularly Spain, the evolution of hygiene in Europe was a complex process influenced by various factors over time, including ancient traditions, scientific discoveries, and social and cultural changes. It says in Europe was complex. Yeah. Because they won't clean their ass like that. People had to tell them. People had to let them know. All right. Now, like I said, the Caucasian, that name was problematic. So what I'm reading a page from Neil Irvin Painter. I guess that's what his name is. Neil Irvin Painter. Why are white people called Caucasians? Then got a question mark. It said the magnitude of Blumenbach. Y'all know who was Blumenbach. Blumenbach was the one that found the skull over by Georgia. He looked at the skull and he was like, oh, this is a beautiful skull. This is the most beautiful skull. And he said Caucasians was the most beautiful people in the world. Off of a skull. But that was some racist shit, but you can't just be mad at Blumenbach. You got to be mad at Darwin and all them niggas because all them thought that bullshit. They did. Listen. And that's the most beautifulest part about making videos like this. Cause we get this, you know, get the buck against all that bull that they said. But anyway, listen, the magnitude of Blumenbach's contribution to scientific racism sometimes lumps him in with the white supremacists. Like I said, mass of racist scientists and pseudoscientists, although he survived in their times. Blumenbach was not such a figure. Through his wide correspondence and influential publications, Blumenbach consistently opposed nonsensical propositions advanced by colleagues like Miners, I guess that's his name, conscientious collector of artifacts crucial to his study, like skulls, like I told you. Blumenbach also assembled the first collection of books by Afrikaner authors, which means they lived in Africa and they was Caucasians. They wasn't Africans. So that's when they say Afrikaner authors. In order to support his contention that people of African descent, listen, Blumenbach also assembled the first collection of books by Afrikaner authors in order to support his contention that people of African descent were not essentially inferior to other races. You don't say. Man, listen to this. In the history of black bibliophilia, Blumenbach stands at the head of the line. It may seem odd that the scholar who gave a name to white people and placed them at the top also prized the intellectual endeavors of black people and knew of their works. So they knew of ancient Kemet. They knew of Africa being the cradle of civilization. They knew of all of this, and they still lied. Listen, I'm just giving you the brief what it is. It may seem odd that the scholar who gave a name to white people, and the name that he gave them was Caucasian because he said they were the best of all people. Listen to this. It may seem odd that the scholar who gave a name to white people and placed them as the top also prized the intellectual endeavors of black people and knew of their works. But listen, but the mouth of Blumenbach's work spoke out of two sides. Remember me telling y'all about the forked side of the tongue? The serpent speaking out of both sides of the tongue, especially when they use the pen, how they write about us and how they always have wrote about us. All European writers do this. It ain't just European writers, it's all other nationalities if they're not black. They always write they self above us and we at the bottom, according to them, two sides. At the same time, he vindicated black people's abilities. His aesthetic standards prized whiteness above all. He reinforced the habit of embedding non-scientific themes such as ancient Germans, Greek ideal of beauty, and the fetishisms of racial and cultural purity into scientific writings. He furthered the expression of ethnocentrism as truth. Succeeding generations, ethnocentrism divided Blumenbach's Caucasian into a welter of superior and inferior races of Europe. So, not only did he put Europeans above all the people in the world, even in the Europeans. See? The Heidelberg, the Neanderthal, and the Cro-Magnon would have been the Caucasian that they was proud of, not them, because they was better. You see that? See how it all came full circle? And this is a white person who wrote.
Listen to me, I don't like you.
With that being said, man, I hope I said enough. I hope everything I said, hit the points that you wanted to know. Hey, third eye's open. Hope it said something to spark something in you, make you want to go check these books out, open these books, study and read more and learn as much as you can. Hey, man, until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.
The rest must roll.